The time when that person hurting wonders where God is. Sometimes it is impossible to feel God's presence, not because God's not there, but because we're so filled up with our own stuff. So it's impossible to feel God's presence and God's power, God's purpose, and God's promises. God is supposed to be good. Yet when we are hurting, we wonder sometimes why we're hurting. We wonder why God allows suffering and hurting. If you grew up like I did, you were told not to question God. And yet, the psalmists question God all the time. Psalm 13 is one of my favorites, but there are a lot of the Psalms where the writers of the Psalms just do not understand what they are going through. And they ask God questions. And even Jesus asked questions, quoting the psalmist who wrote Psalm 22, my God, you know, what's up? Why have you forsaken me? We don't get it. A little suffering is all right, but suffering that causes hurt and it goes on and on and on gives us a pause. You don't get it. I've been wondering about this as I have watched and written about the suffering that goes on and has always gone on in this world. There are all these people who have been shot and killed either by police or by street violence. There are children all over this country, and some not very far from us here, right in Ohio, who are hungry and who don't have coats and hats and clothes for winter. There are people in Palestine who are being killed just because they are Palestinian. The latest deaths reported were a toddler who died when his home was firebombed by Israeli soldiers or militants, and a young teen who died the next day as he was protesting the death of that little kid. And I watch it and I listen and I wonder what to say then when people challenge me on the notion of a good God. I'm thinking of parents and loved ones who are weeping today. The parents of Michael Brown have the horrible anniversary of his murder right upon them, and the refusal of the grand jury to indict the officer who shot and killed him that's coming up. The parents and loved ones of Sandra Bland and Freddie Gray and Sam DuBose and John Crawford and Kendra Chapman, and on and on and on and on and on. Those people are weeping. Do you realize that in the month of July, one black person was killed, at least one black person was killed every single day by police officers? So all these people are there, they're holding their grief, and they're holding their anger and their pain in their laps because racism and hatred that produce their deaths or the deaths of their loved ones will not go away. There are so many people who are dying at the hands of violence that it's hard to keep up. This police officer in Memphis was killed yesterday, and while I struggle with the reality of what too many police officers do, I mourn for his family. I mourn for people who are struggling to hold on to their sanity as their grief eats them alive. And I ask God, where are you? I wrote a piece in the Huffington Post this week, and I hope that you guys are reading my little stuff on this subject. Periodically, I have to wrestle with this notion because it seems that we worship God a lot of times not because of what God does or does not do, but in spite of what God does or does not do. Sometimes we have such a wonderful testimony as to what God has done for us and in our lives. We can't keep it to ourselves. Come on, you don't have time, we just come in and dance again and celebrate it. But so many other times, we go to worship and we go to church, not with joy, but with questions and anger and confusion. Sometimes we go and worship faking it. I have a good friend who's a theologian, and she said, and she's a preacher, and she said there was something very tremendous going on in her life. She said, for a year I had to fake it. I had to fake like I appreciate God. I had to fake the praise. All of us do that. We don't like to admit it, but sometimes that is just the reality. We fake it until we make it up to the next rung of life. That's just the reality. We hold on to God because God, I think, is the best option we have. The government certainly is not an option. Other people are not options either. God really is the best option at the end of the day. We hold on to God with crazy faith, believing that if we just hold on, we will make it through whatever we are going through. And that holding on, I think, has saved many a life. I shudder for people who do not reach for God or call on God because I think, this is me, without God, there is nothing else. There is nothing else. You cannot drink your pain away. You cannot bury your pain, at least not quickly. It is always there. I have found that the only hope that works is this belief that things will be better. By and by, they will be better. Just because God is. But I get trouble because I wonder why God doesn't just do something. You know that song, Say Something, Not Giving Up on You? You know that song by Sam Smith? Every once in a while, I want to say to God, can you do something? Have you ever felt like that? Can you stop something? Say something, not giving up on you. I'll be the one. I sing that sometimes because I wonder why God doesn't just do something to change the hearts of the wicked. I wonder why God doesn't go into the souls of racists and sexists and homophobes and people who are just evil and wicked, and wash them down. Wash them. We said they created me a clean heart and a right mind. That's asking God to wash us down. I wonder why God doesn't just do that. Take you a bucket of soap, God, and go and wash these people's souls because they're dirty, they're messed up, they've got stuff on them and stuff. And I wonder why God doesn't just do that so that their hardened hearts will go away and they will have hearts of flesh like we talked about last week. He said he would do that in Ezekiel. Why then doesn't God just fix things? Why doesn't God work on Donald Trump? Why doesn't God work on Governor Huckabee? Why doesn't God just do some stuff? All these people who want to rule over us, and they've got evil in their hearts, and they don't care about us. They don't care if people have Medicare. They don't care if people have Medicaid. They don't care about people being hungry. All they care about is trying to save the dollar on the backs of the poor. And I'm saying, well, God, Caesar, why don't you give Donald Trump or Huckabee or whomever, or Ted Cruz or Scott Walker, Sarah Palin or Carla Fiorini, why don't you give them a Damascus Road experience? Something where they are knocked off of their perches of arrogance and they have to have hearts of flesh. Why doesn't God just fix things so that evil is not just such a common presence, especially in the areas of racism and sexism and homophobia and all that stuff? How can God allow people who hate others and harass and kill them with impunity keep on going and keep on saying that they love God? When they say that, I think, oh, there must be another God. There must be two gods, because the God that I serve wouldn't put up with what you're saying God puts up with. I get confused. Theologian Howard Thurman says that those who are oppressed are the disinherited. And he says that Jesus is there for them and for us. But that declaration vacates the question already asked. Why hasn't God wiped out the racists? Not them as individuals, because all of us are children of God, but their hearts. Why hasn't God done something? Sometimes I wonder if God is even trying to fix them. If you're even trying, because I think God is so powerful that if God was trying, he could do whatever God wanted to do. I sometimes wonder if God was trying, wouldn't racism be gone by now? And I'm talking about racism, but all of the forms of oppression that get us down, which people mete out to each other, just seem out of place when we think of God being a good God. With those kinds of questions, what does a person do? He or she hurts. Do people reject God, or do they negate the possibility of God's intervention? When I was with the kids at the Haley Farm a couple of weeks ago, those kids said they don't want anything to do with God. These are the kids that are in their Black Lives Matter movement. These are kids that went to church with their grandmas and moms, but they are disappointed and they are disillusioned. They don't want anything to do with God. They don't want anything to do with the older people. They don't want, because they feel like they have been betrayed and let down and left alone. I was listening to an author of a new book talk yesterday on the radio. His name is Nick Touches, and he said, quote, "The idea of God has never been a force for good in this world, but only for evil." I said, Dad, what are you talking about? But then, when you think about the Crusades, they did it in the name of God. All this stuff with the Palestinians, they do it in the name of God. When people burn crosses, they do it in the name of God. He said, this guy said that the world doesn't need God in order for there to be good. I disagree with him, but that sentence struck me because people do so many wretched things in the name of God, in the name of God, and they feel buoyed by it, and they feel justified in it. He said, in essence, that it was foolhardy for people to hope in the reality of Jesus being a force for good. The interviewer asked, well, don't we all need hope? And the author said, yes, but that hope does not come from Jesus. If that is the case, then, as I thought as I listened to him, then what do we do when we hurt? And Jesus is not the answer. What do we do? If there is no Jesus, what is there? There's a scene